I believe we've been in an economic war with China for quite some time.
Yeah.
Only recently in the Wall Street Journal, there was an article that said the business community is finally beginning to recognize that. They saw China as a potential for profit, and now they realize it's a threat. Do you have any comments, any thoughts on China?
I mean, so from a military perspective, take China, just look at their air forces. China has about 4,000 fighter airplanes, 4,000. That just trounces us significantly. I mean, they've got 1,500 almost MiG-21 airplanes. And so if we ended up in a war with China, which, by the way, I don't think we're going to end up, I think we're in a war with China economically, like you've been so good at describing. I think China is actually smart enough to know how to beat us, and it's not militarily. I think they know how to beat us because we have an open, very free economy that lets businesses move back and forth. And I think, as you've very accurately discussed, they know how to beat us on an economic cyber front. They're a gigantic threat. Of course they are. I mean, they really, between China and Russia, have absolutely no desire to keep their money tied up in a petrodollar that's based on our dollar. They're not thrilled with us as far as our national policy. And so they're a threat. I don't think, like I said, I don't think they're military. They are a military threat if we went to war with them, because it would be a big war. I don't think we're going to go to war with them. I think we're going to go to economic war with them. And if we end up in North Korea, they will be the lever that shifts that particular war. So North Korea, which we were just talking about, is about a week of a war if we did it. If it's just South Korea and the United States against North Korea, it's over in a week. If China enters, it's a completely different game. And so they really become the wild card in North Korea when it comes down to it. But they're definitely the wild card in the economic world, for sure.
One of the arguments people make is that you see Trump went to North Korea. It would take, as it took Nixon to go to China, it would take Trump to go to North Korea. And there is conjecture that he is devising a wedge between China and North Korea. And there is also conjecture that he may be devising a wedge between Russia and China, because North Korea really has more to fear from China than they do from the United States. Russia should fear China more than the United States. Any comment? We think this may be the new Trump doctrine. If it's not the Trump doctrine, I think it should be.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I wouldn't put it past the administration to be creating those things. Of course, the media isn't willing to talk about any of that, other than the negative. What business angle is he working, or something like that. So, but I wouldn't put it past them to be able to do that. I mean, you really have three completely separate entities in North Korea, China, and Russia. You throw Iran in there too, by the way, in that sort of quad mix there. And Iran's an interesting scenario because you have, like I was talking about the Middle East. I'll go there and we'll come back. In Iran, you have. So on the ground, like take Syria, for the most part, we align with Iran on most of the allied organizations in Syria, which is kind of interesting. Russia is 100% aligned with Iran, and we're not, right? And so you look at Russia being aligned with Iran, we're not aligned with Iran, but Iran's aligned with just about everybody that we're aligned with on the ground. When you look at those three countries, North Korea, China, and Russia, you actually see similar alignments. So there's some alignment, and then there's some complete disalignment, and so you have in Russia actually a huge country geographically, but a very small country as far as population and even economy goes, but incredibly large when it comes to military. And the Russian military arm reaches into almost all the other countries with supplies and airplanes. And so just about every single one of our enemies flies Russian-made airplanes. And if they don't fly Russian-made airplanes, they've reverse-engineered Russian-made airplanes. So, for example, the Chinese FT-7 is a carbon copy of the Russian MiG-21. So Chinese-made airplanes actually look exactly like Russian-made airplanes because the Chinese, much like they do with our technology, they buy them, and they take them apart, and then they go, hey, we know how to do this, and they put it all back together. And sometimes that works well, and sometimes it doesn't. There are some funny stories about Chinese-made airplanes that just didn't come to pass because of their inability to put things together. And so you have an alignment in certain cases, and then you have a complete breakdown in certain cases. So yeah, if you can break those groups up, so for example, take for example the petrodollar, if you can break the two of them up, it makes it more difficult for them to economically fight against us when it comes to the dollar, and it certainly is the exact same case when it comes to the military side.